My big suggestion to students, particularly through high school, is
you can do anything.
Choose it for you, not for it is worth
it.
Just focus on the next
Doesn't
step.
matter what you're doing.
Don't be afraid.
As long as you're doing
That
something.
is such good advice.
I don't think I could see myself doing
It's a
anything else.
challenging life.
Student nights, Wednesday to
Oh,
Saturday.
I worked on that house.
I racked up every single dollar of debt that I
I
possibly
think
could.
there's a lot of pressure on high school.
Yeah, I
kids
just
these days,
love working outside.
And if money is something that you care a lot
In
about,
hindsight, that
I've
was,
also been a very indecisive
But you
person.
keep looking for roads that have been less
It
travelled.
was just that moment that I knew what I wanted to do. So nothing else is going to change that.
Welcome to the guest speaker.
So look, yeah, welcome Gemma. It's this has been one I've been really looking forward to because you'll see obviously in the background, you'll see my background. A little bit of whakapapa. So you don't know this yet. I grew up in Otaki. So you're Wellington based. I knew Wellington well because as a kid, if the surf got in a particular direction or wind direction, we'd head off to Pukerua Bay or Pa Point or Titahi Bay or Lyell Bay. So I know that the Wellington surf scene pretty well. So when I saw you starting to emerge with your wetsuits, of course, it was right up my alley. But your business side of your story was something that fascinated me. So I also went to Victoria University, did my teacher's training there, and we were just chatting. You ran into someone who I may have taught, which, apologies to them. But I've got a story later about a wetsuit story at Lyell Bay, just to put in context some of the things you do. I was a schoolboy Wellington champ. I sort of had sponsors as a young kid. So I'm quite fascinated with the industry and what you've done with it. I'll come back to that. So just in terms of people listening, Gemma Lee's swimsuits and wetsuits is your first and second name. So you've based it around your name. So you're a Wellington-based swimsuit and wetsuit designer. You graduated design school in 2018, which is a 4-year degree. So we're interested in that. And as a kid, you always wanted to study fashion and design. So I love this idea that it was a very early on thing. You love the water, you swam competitively, surf life-saving, synchronized swimming, goodness me, and surfing. You grew up obsessed with swimwear, and so you'd try and buy stuff from America. And having traveled to Hawaii as a kid, I know going into the surf shops and that over there, particularly early on, was a fascinating experience, considering the products we had in our country. So hence you went to uni and the swimwear stuff was your thing. Yeah. You had this realization neoprenes could be digitally printed, which I'm really interested in. And your lecturer said you should be doing wetsuits. So there was support on the way where someone recognized your talent and your passion, and your goal was pretty much, how can I make the prettiest wetsuit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you applied in 2018 for an International Emerging Design Awards, where you were one of 39 finalists from 21 countries, and you won Most Commercial Collection Award. Is that right? Yeah. And that the springboard went to Vogue in Italy. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was on their website.
Oh my God. And then you've got the New Zealand Fashion Week Awards coming up in the near future, which has been a really big thing for you, I know, and I've been following that. Not associated with wetsuit design swimwear. I'm really interested in what I'm going to call an interrupter to the business of wetsuits. You've introduced fun, colour, design, and you've female-based it. And I think there's a lot of wetsuit companies who have wetsuits and they just simply measure them differently and they say there's a female wetsuit. And so it's a very masculine industry, and even the token gestureness of it hasn't really stripped it right back to the essence of female like you have and started from the base level up. And so I'm really fascinated with that. I love the social media stuff. So I want to also talk to you regarding people aren't just buying a wetsuit, they're buying a piece of you. And I'm not sure I can think of another wetsuit. I know Patagonia, their story is very much a business-orientated one, and I'm sure you know that story. But by putting your name on it is something that's quite exciting. So I suppose for kids listening and parents and people interested in moving into the world you are, we're looking design, fashion, business, marketing, technology, ethics around neoprene, recyclables. I know you have a lot. And just to sort of slightly kick off, I mentioned a story earlier. Grace is going to throw up an image or two.
Oh no.
So look, this is when I had here. The interesting thing about this picture was I was sent these by a leader, Wetsuits of the time. They were sponsoring me Wetsuits. I got escorted from the water at Lyell Bay because people didn't like the flamboyant colours. And so Lyell Bay, as you know, is quite a sort of predatory environment, very localised. And here was this young boy, sponsors on his board and a wetsuit like that. And I find it ironic that 30, 40 years later, you're challenging that concept. Probably ever since that, my wetsuit has been black. And hence, and that was the winter one they gave me. That was over the Wairarapa somewhere. Again, for those days, lots of colour. And I'm not sure I could go into a shop now and even find a wetsuit with red, yellow, black, all mixed up, even for me. So anyway, that's my backstory. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming. And I just want to take you back to school because I want to see where this all started and the influence of education in New Zealand prior to what's happened to you since. Can you chat through us that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I haven't spoken about high school in a very long time. So this will be interesting. But when I was reflecting back, I was like, I don't really think I had the most, I guess, conventional experience in a lot of ways. So I went to St. Catherine's College. So I was like, yeah, very normal college. But I chose, and I knew this when I was choosing my college, I chose a college that didn't offer fashion design, which is what I wanted to do when I left high school. And they offered textiles in year 9 and year 10. So I knew that. And then my mum was also a homeschool teacher for other college students. And so she knew and told me that I could do fashion design or some technology papers by correspondence at school. When I got to that point that I couldn't do, I've done year 9, year 10 textiles. And so I was like, oh, okay then. And I still went with the college that I did because it was the closest college to the pool. And I was a competitive swimmer at that point. So I was training twice a day, like right into my sports. And I guess you're not thinking at that point too much post high school, the impact, your high school has on you. So yeah, I went with that, and I did do correspondence for a couple of years in high school. And that was, I actually ended up doing it with another friend at high school. They managed to rope into the whole concept of like doing these technology correspondent papers with me. So we would like sit in the library together and go through it. And then I got to I think it was in year 12 and year 13, my whānau teacher, which is kind of like my form teacher, he was also the art teacher, and he knew my passion for fashion design, and that's what I wanted to do. And so he pushed to get a fashion class instated at our school for him to run it. He didn't even know a lot about sewing. So in year 12, he instated fashion class, and by year 13, he had convinced the school to get an actual fashion teacher to run the class. So, yeah, when I reflect back, it wasn't quite the most conventional conventional high school experience, but I guess I did get fashion design at my college. So, I guess that's a win.
Yeah. And so, just trying to even go further back, that was high school. When you already knew you wanted to do fashion design. When did it start? Like, we're talking really young. Were you sewing or something as a little kid or something? Or
yeah, and I guess I probably started back in primary school. Like I've always been a creative, loved my crafts, and I don't know why fashion design just like stuck at me. That's what I wanted to do. But yeah, I would like cut up my mother's beautiful material to her horror, because I didn't know how to sew. I thought I knew how to sew, and would like sew little clothes for my bears. They had like a bear they would like dress up, and I would watch Project Runway, and I used to think back then, I was like, I can design a new outfit and make a new outfit every week. Again, I didn't actually know how to sew properly. So I don't know, for some reason, I actually don't know the origins of why I suddenly was like, that's maybe I was just one of those kids that got fixated on something because that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Okay, so you're sitting at school. Were you doing quite well at school academically? Did you do any complementary subjects like economics, or, because I'm thinking eventually you're going to, we know you're going to own a business. Were there other, were you good at maths? Yes.
Yes. That's a funny when you say that, because so I did like all the careers I possibly could do. So I did, in my last year 13 was probably a very fun year, because I dropped like English, I dropped math, and I did fashion design, I did photography, I did technology, what do you call it? Digital design, and what else? There was a couple, I felt like there was another creative paper I did. I did Gateway so I could go get work experience in the industry. It was a really fun year. But yeah, I was very actually I was quite good at maths, and then I ended up doing physics because I was good at maths, which ended up being really helpful when I went to university and did pattern making, because that's very mathematical. And so I was a very good pattern maker at university because of that. But yes, I was always definitely one of those students to work as hard as possible. I wanted, the highest marks. And I think that came from a year 9 experience. In year 9, you just got to college, and everything's new and scary, and you also aren't used to the whole new like grading system of anything. Like, I had never studied for anything prior to that before ever. I didn't know the concept of studying, and I was in music class, like that was compulsory. I wasn't good at music, so it was compulsory class, and I failed my first paper, my first thing ever, and I remember the feeling of failing something for the first time, and I was like, I was shooketh. And so after that, I studied so hard, and I never failed another paper after that. But year 9 is certainly a journey of like understanding things for the first time. But after that, I was always striving to do the best that I could.
Cool. Okay, so it's going to be a pretty clear link to where you went to study. So can you just talk about, for people considering, even if they're from anywhere in the country coming into Wellington, the course you did, is there an application, how long it was, and what that involved, and how hands-on it is for us? Because I think that's, do that.
So I then went to Massey University to study a Bachelor of Design, majoring in fashion. And when I decided that I wanted to stay in Wellington to study fashion design, there obviously wasn't heaps of options. I think there's 2 options now. I don't know, when I left Massey, I think Vic was just starting to offer a fashion course. I'm not sure if that still exists. But and then that was as a 4-year degree, but how it works with like any other Bachelor of Design, like the degree itself at Massey is 3 years, and the 4th year is your honours year. And that's sort of like kind of everyone, it's a compulsory year, and like mostly everyone does honours, except again, I went the unconventional route, and I had all the grades, I could do honours, but I decided not to do honours, and I picked up, if you didn't take honours, you would then pick up more other elective papers to fill up, those credits. And so I decided to pick up some other papers and some more business papers, which I hadn't really previously done many business papers. And the reason I decided to do that at the time was because I knew that I wanted to go run my own business. And I was like, okay, me sitting here writing this massive thesis about something is not going to help me run a business. I need to go get some more business skills, get some more like skills in fashion and these particular areas. And so that's kind of what made sense for my journey. And so, I mean, back then it's probably the same today. It's not very conventional to bow out of honours when you can go do it, because most of your class is doing it. Everyone else is doing that. But I think when you actually just focus on your own journey and decide what's actually most beneficial for where you want to get, then you approach things differently. So yeah, that was, I guess, something a little bit unconventional again that I did.
Well, I mean, it would be hard for me now if I was a kid sitting there wanting to sort of run my own business. Why now I wouldn't mimic that? I'd find it hard to say exactly like you did. Why am I writing papers? Like Teachers College, why write papers on education when I could go into a room and actually try and teach, so I get it. I think that's really good advice.
Was
Yeah.
there,
So
Gemma?
how quick up you? Oh, you go, Greg.
Oh, no, sorry, just quickly, because in that, like, you are more of an adult, even though at the time you're the most adult you've been. Now looking back, you might think I was not quite adult yet. It's how I feel. All that saying, when you're in uni, it's different making these decisions. Like, that's a really practical for you. You know what you want. But when you go back to high school, I found it really cool that you said your mum advocated and even had the concept of correspondence. But when you were dropping the English or the math or whatever, were you getting, because there might be some people who think, oh, that sounds good, but there might be resistance. Was there resistance of people going, oh, you're clever, you should do this? Like, if you could just talk to that a little bit.
That's a good question. I'm trying to think back, and I don't ever remember there being a resistance. I do remember when I dropped physics and maths that year, my physics teacher wasn't happy because he was like, I want you to do physics. But I guess I was again, it was one of those things of I knew what I wanted to do, where I was going, what makes sense. And I do think, I guess in that situation, I did really have my mum kind of advocating for, I guess, that sort of the pathway that I did go. Because I do also remember, and I'm pretty sure you might not like me saying this, but I remember when it was in year 13 again, I had got all my credits, I had got the excellence that I wanted, and there was still some more internal, I think, exams to be done that year. And I was very into my competitive sports back then, so I was done the schoolwork, that's done. I want to focus on my sports now. And so my mum actually did step in and was I don't know, she talked to our deputy principal or somebody and was she doesn't need any more credit. She's not doing any more of these internals. She's just gonna, cruise to the end of the year now. And so I did drop out of some, exams because I didn't need to do them because I had done what I set to do. I got the achievement that I wanted, and so now I was focusing on the next step in my journey. So I guess I don't know, I don't feel like I've personally felt that sort of any judgment, but I do think it helps having a parent that's kind of advocating. I think if I didn't have a parent that was, I think it would be very different. It would feel like I was going against the grain and oh no, am I making the right decision?
Well, thank you. And it's something we've spoken about with others, Ludlam, where it's as parents listening, because there will be parents listening, and they have this kid who's going, no, I want to do this. And you were into your sports, you were competitive, you had done what you needed to do. It's finding that balance of, do I let them do this because it's what they want to do, like it was in your situation, or not? And we don't have the fix. We don't have an answer to that, but it's just an important thing as parents and kids try to figure out, do I push them or do I let them do their thing, and trying to navigate that?
Yeah, I think as well, looking back kind of my journey now where I am, today, it's you can't really go, I don't think you can go too wrong, to be honest. I just think that the journey that I've been on and the opportunities that I've had, whether I had done what I did, my approach to high school, if I had done that or done something, a bit more conventional, I still would have ended up okay. Either way, I think you're gonna be okay. You'll still find your way to where you want to be.
I think it's also a ginormous step, isn't it? It's not, Mum, I don't want to do assessments because I want to sit at home and do nothing. You had a plan and you had things you were doing. And I think when it comes from the kid that I want to, and there's kids do it, that there's kids at schools running little businesses and little trading things they do, I think, to let kids go it is, but it's a mix. It's the juggling. again, mum or dad sitting there with their, son or daughter in their bedroom playing video games all day. That's not happening. But so can I ask, Gemma, when you were at your design school stuff in your university, were you developing a swagger about you? Was it, obviously if I'm talking to an athlete, I'm asking them, when did they realize they were good? When did you start to think, or did others start to think, this kid's got something? Did you get that sense when you were studying?
That's a good question. To be honest, like there was just so much, in my opinion, so much talent and creativity in our year. And everyone was like, it was just so diverse of everyone kind of had their thing they were really good at, that I never ever personally felt that at all, to be honest. Everyone was very talented and very creative. I think I really came into my own in my last year, and that is when I went like fully focused on swimwear and wetsuits, because prior to that, it wasn't until my third year that they offered a paper that was on stretch materials, so on swimwear and activewear. So prior to that, I didn't get to do heaps of that kind of thing. It was, my last year that I really, came into my own and really found like my own niche, my own style. And that's when I came out with the beautiful, colorful wetsuits. So, yeah.
Okay, so this is good, because now we're on to really what you do. It's the swimwear in this color. If people go away now and they Google Gemma Lee wetsuits or whatever, and they're just going to see this immersion of what you're doing. Before we even jump to there, did you remember the first swimsuit you sewed up, and I presume you wore it and went, this is me? Like, did you remember that?
I do remember, that was in university, kind of making the prototypes, and they were just like plain black, and I still have them that come up in my phone memories of like this many years ago, and there's a picture of me standing in my parents' bathroom of me like taking a picture of the prototype, like every single angle. And come a long way since then, thank goodness.
Right. So how did you get started? How did you go from that? How long did it take before you either owned a business or you were producing? Did you have to get investors? Did you have to go overseas and get how did you go about starting?
Yeah. So I think as soon as I guess I knew that I wanted to have my own business. And that kind of came from probably as well coming from a family that owned businesses. So my parents both owned their own businesses. My brother owns his own mechanic business. And so it was very much, I think when you kind of grow up around that sort of environment, it's possible. And you're like, well, then I can do it too. That makes sense. And so that was always like, that's what I'm going to do. And so again, I was already set that like, I'm going to leave, finish uni, and then I'm going to go straight in and make my start my business. And I was quite lucky how that sort of all actually played out. And I think that kind of speaks to really chasing and finding opportunities, like not waiting for things to happen and come to you. So I did my graduate collection, which was all colorful wetsuits. And then there was this, in our final year, we were encouraged if there were any design competitions to enter it. And so at the end of that, end of the very there was this competition, and it was called ID International Emerging Design Awards, which you mentioned earlier. And so that's actually international competition, but it's actually based in New Zealand, in Dunedin. So I actually entered that one on a whim. I was not going to enter it, and then it was the final night, and I was like, you know what? Do it. So I literally threw together an application. It was very last minute. And then I got in, and I was like, whoa, okay, this is cool. And so all the finalists have to go to Dunedin, which is really cool when there was people from all around the world. So you get to meet very cool people. And I was about to fly out to Dunedin for it because there was 2 nights of shows, and I got a call from, I think it started with TV1 News, and they're like, hey, when you get here, we want to do an interview and we want to run a story on your journey here. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, what have I signed up for? Like, I nearly didn't even enter this competition. And now I have a TV like crew that want to follow me. And so I got down there, and as soon as I got there, we went, I had like a filming session with them to like tell my story. Then they were obviously then followed me at the show, my journey. And then the second night of the show, which was also that awards night, I then had backstage TV3 News come over, and they're like, hey, can we interview you for like our segment on this, tonight? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so I ended up being on 6 p.m. News 2 nights in a row. And then I won the award for most commercial collection. I was like, wow, like for me it was a very like, whoa, this is amazing. Wasn't here because I nearly didn't apply for this. And now I have obviously won this award, and this really gaining all this free publicity. And so, of course, with that show, there was like more extra publicity, a lot of like online people like covering it as well. And so I was like, this is amazing. And so once I came back from that show, I was like, all right, I really got to get stuck into building this business. Like,
But this, Gemma, at this point, you're not mass producing wetsuits. Not that you mass produce, but you still don't.
I hadn't made it yet.
Okay.
No,
good.
at that point, so with that competition, that was my university collection I showed, and that was at the beginning of 2018. And then, I got back, and then I was like, all right, let's get to work. And so I knew with wetsuits being so specialized, I was like, it's either going to cost me a heck of a lot of money to set up to be able to make this myself, or I need to find a manufacturer. And that was that was the direction I wanted to go, is to find a manufacturer. And again, I was very blessed to have the support of my parents to put that initial investment in so that I was able to do it. So I really acknowledge I'm very privileged in that sense. And so
what is an initial investment for someone? Is that 10,000? I mean, I don't want to, but are we talking hundreds of thousands?
Oh gosh, no.
No.
It really is just, you really need the initial investment to put that first order in, because that's like, they have their minimum order quantities. And so that is always the challenge. So I think there would have been about a 30K investment would have been the initial. But I think with any business, there's a lot of flexibility on how big you go for that first order. So I could have been less if someone, was in the same position as I was. You can easily do it less if you had to.
Well, sorry, Gemma, to jump there, like, just because I think that's interesting, of if you didn't get it from your parents, which is awesome, but you would have and could have fundraised another way, or it might have just taken you a little bit longer, like you said earlier, about you were going to get there, and especially having this publicity from being on the news, etc. So if someone's listening who goes, oh, like, that's not necessarily an option, it's very common. It might take you a little bit of time, but people want to donate or invest or get involved. So just wanted to call that out too.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think I had in my second or third year, I had this woman reach out to me from down south who wanted to be an investor in my business. So like, I think, if you're able to get your story out there are plenty of people that are interested to help like support you. So definitely, if I wasn't obviously privileged to have my parents, there would have been another way. Yeah. Absolutely. And so I wanted, a big thing for me was my, being ethical. That was something I wasn't going to value. I was not going to compromise on. But I think when you're that young and it's a big world, and it's like, oh gosh, where do you start? Like, I can't just jump on a plane and fly anywhere. Check it's ethical. And so I did look further afield to begin with, and then I was like, this is too tricky. And so then I landed in a manufacturer in the Gold Coast, which actually was, I don't know if it was the Aussie leader that sponsored you, but that is who I started manufacturing with. And so that was amazing because that was really close to home. And so I was able to visit them quite a bit to get that up and going, which, was really, really cool. And that same year, I also there was a couple of really big things. So after I won that show, they were also showing, putting a group show on at New Zealand Fashion Week that year, and they invited me to come show there. And so I was like, whoa, okay, I'm going to launch my new collection, that the one that will actually be like my commercial collection that will be made at New Zealand Fashion Week, and I'll launch my business just after that. And so our mayor at the time, it was Justin Lester. He previously had also run his own businesses prior to being a mayor. And so I Facebooked him and I was like, hi, this is what I'm doing. I'd love to meet up and chat with you about it. And then somehow through that, I managed to score a meeting with him in his actual office building, which was very fancy. I remember getting there, I had a little ticket. I got given a ticket and I went up the lift with it. And he was super lovely. He's like, yeah, we would love to support you. And he's like, how about we put on a launch event for your brand, and I'll invite, all my connections and media and stuff, and try, help you that way. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, that would be amazing. So he launched my brand. He was at my launch party and he did a speech and stuff. And yeah, it was really beautiful. We actually had it at the Begonia House up at Botanical Gardens. So again, that was one of those moments again of really just creating your own opportunities, putting yourself out there in ways that you didn't quite, isn't conventional. But I think, that obviously ended up being a really cool thing. But if I hadn't reached out in the first place, I would have had none of that. Yeah.
We talk a lot, Gemma, about key competencies, which are that invisible thing at school where, it doesn't matter how much physics you can shove in that head. No one could teach. Well, people can teach you by giving you opportunities, like Mum did by saying, well, actually stop your exams. She was essentially saying there's other things that are going to help you grow. Your competitive swimming, the diligence behind that. And all. So, yeah, I'd put a shout out to that. Can I just ask, the business, it's not a shop, is it?
It's all online.
So was that a decision you made because you're getting product and now you've gone to the Gold Coast, they're sending you boxfuls of beautiful wetsuits. How did that work?
Yeah, so that was always, I don't think I really considered anything else at that point, because I was definitely not in a position to open up a shop, because those type of overheads for a brand new baby business is you're pushing it, and especially when at this point, your name's only just starting to get out there. So to open a shop is a huge risk because you don't know if enough people know about you yet. So I always it was always going to be online. And so at that point, that's actually when I was actually in my last year at university, it's when I started my social media accounts for my brand was slowly going to come to existence. And so I had already started gardening a bit of a following from back in uni. So yeah, I'd always sort of focused on growing that online presence. And that is the beauty of e-commerce, is that, immediately I am now in front of the whole world. Anyone can come look at my stuff. Anyone can shop for me. So that is a really cool thing about e-commerce.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there a conscious decision, Gemma, at some point to just call it some other wetsuit, but you, by tagging it to you, was that a conscious decision or just something that just happened?
I think, again, growing up, I was always very inspired by all the designers that used their names. You've got Karen Walker, you've got Trelise Cooper. And so it was Yes, it was just a very, in my head, very fashion design industry thing. I wanted that, and I also wanted, I knew a lot of fashion designers that were ambassadors for car companies. And so it was my second year, I hit up, I got a Suzuki Jimny, and I hit up Suzuki, and it's like, I didn't put it like this, but I want to be an ambassador for you guys. And they're like, so I went up to their head offices are in Wanganui, and I went up there and I sat in this big boardroom with these top guys, And yeah, we ended up doing quite a few cool little collabs as like, as an ambassador for them. So yeah, I don't know how I got into that tangent. But yeah, no, I think it's just like all this fashion, an industry thing that I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. And Gemma Lee had a nice ring to it. My middle name had a much better ring name than my last name.
No, because it's funny you say, because there is money within industry to support. You know, I said a leader wetsuits, and I had Gorilla Grip and surfboards and clothing. You just wrote to a company and said, hey, and they'd go, and it was like, what?
Absolutely.
You know, wicked. This you touched on the social media side. Has that just come naturally to you? Because I mean, I watch this stuff and the authenticity side of it. I mentioned earlier, people are buying a piece of you. Did it just come natural, or is it something that you've worked on? Or
yeah, I think it's well, as you know, social media is ever evolving. So how it was back when I first started the account versus now is very, very different. Like now it is all about like showing up, showing your face. I remember I think it was last year, my business mentor gave me the challenge of, she's like, you need to show your face on social media every day for 30 days. And I was like, oh gosh, like that's a challenge. And so, but the whole practice of that was getting used to showing up and showing your face and just being there, because the more people you get in people's face, like in front of people, the more that you're building that community, you're reminding people of your brand, and just building that rapport. So it's definitely a practice. There's a lot of practice and a lot of time. It takes a lot of time.
yeah, it's funny you say that, because bloody Grace here gave me practice prior to these sort of things. But it was amazing. It was amazing how much it helped, because you'd video something and go, what a dick, like, what was I thinking? Or I can't even understand what I'm saying, you know, so it's not easy.
Can I ask what else? I'll say that. This says he also, very quick, I'll send him one, and then I was creating this one where it goes back and forth, Gemma. So it's like when we first started, like, I'm Grace, I'm Ludlam, and like I would cut it back and forth to keep people engaged. And he gave me his first one. Of course, I upped mine, and then I sent it back to him, and he's like, nah, I'm going again.
I love that.
Yeah. I'm dealing with the youth of the country.
It's tough.
Before I forget, how have you adapted so I mentioned earlier, you've adapted wetsuit design, you've stripped it back, and I don't think it's just marketing, it's female. How have you designed things better? Because I know if I went shopping for my wife, she'll shoot me for saying this, there'll be something about, well, if it's not this length on my leg, it makes me look short, or there's things you're doing in your design from the things you've learnt to make women feel beautiful, to make them want to put that wetsuit on, because they can be very unflattering if they're not right.
Yes.
What have you done? Because it fascinates me.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is designing to the female form, and so that kind of goes straight, like strip right back to, you know, all the design lines and all the panels, that they are A, flattering, and B, you know, support you where you want them to. And so that's been like it's been a really cool journey that in itself, because recently I wanted to do this photo shoot where I got a woman in every single size that I had, so that, you know, women could come onto my website and see themselves what they look like in whatever size. And the part that I loved the most was like every single size, I'm like, damn, you look so good in it. Like, doesn't matter what size, what body shape you have, like you look so good. And so that was like a big win. But then there's just like all those little like features and details. So like on like the ankles and the wrist, we represso notches in so you can cut the length, so it's fitting you right and not all bagging up at the end. So it comes down to all those little features that make the biggest difference.
Yeah. How are you protecting yourself? What's stopping someone in China going, aha, this young woman's onto something, I'm just going to trump her? Is there a protection measure you have, or you don't need to worry about it?
Yeah, I remember discussing this right back at the beginning, being like, oh, is there any way I can protect, my IP? And we quickly kind of came to the point of like, actually, there isn't. But the one thing that I did have on my side is that all the prints and all the designs, they come from in here, and no one can steal or know what I'm going to come out with next. And so that is kind of my special weapon, I think.
Yeah. And so you'll do series. You'll obviously be constantly. I think you were looking last time I went online. You were doing your spring collection. That's how you, as a designer, will work. There'll be a spring, there'll be a summer, there'll be a winter.
Yeah,
and they're all new every year. Is that
absolutely?
How you...
Yeah, we've already halfway. I already designed my winter collection next year, so I've got a couple of collections coming out over spring, summer this year, and that's all ready to go, all in manufacturing, and I'm about to get my winter samples for next year will arrive in the next couple of weeks, which is always very weird trying to focus on. So I have a new collection coming out in 2 weeks' time. And it's kind of weird trying to focus on launching this new thing, which is really exciting. But then I'm like, my head's also like a year in advance right now. It's very strange sometimes.
Do you, Gemma, like, what's the team look like? Because obviously you're the designer, it comes from here, you make the decisions, but there's been reference sometimes of, it just makes me think there's more than just you. So what now does the team look like?
That's so funny. I love that. I always talk about, I think this is what a lot of small business owners do. They always talk about we this, we that. And it's just me. It is just me. I do it all. There's obviously, I get contractors to help me with various things here and there, but the main load comes from me. So,
so
I am the we.
You are no, and that's fantastic because also, like, I hear you say business mentor as well. So it's you, but then you've got the business mentor and maybe some other people that you lean on for as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I put my husband to work on his days off. He comes and packs for hours for me when I had like too many orders. So there's definitely a lot of people behind the scenes that help me do what I do.
They support you, but that's cool to listen again, going back to that student listening potentially in high school where it's like, you might love the design, great, but you do need to get savvy on the accounting or the manufacturing or these things. Because if you want to run what you do, like you are the we. I love that. You are the we behind it. And it's all well and good having the passion for it, but there have to be some logistics, like I'm sure tax and accounting, like getting sharp on some of those other things too.
Absolutely. I think that's my business mentor. She also runs some courses, and her biggest thing, she ran her own business, which is obviously where her background comes from. But prior to that, she was an accountant and she was like a CFO of really big companies. And so she comes from the very nitty gritty number side of things. And so she drilled into me, which I hadn't, it was not, didn't know much about before, but like, your P&L, your cash flow, understanding all that so that how much how much product to bring in, how much to order, so that you reach the goal that you wanted at the end of the year. She really taught me that like the goal that I want at the end of the year, like this however much in revenue, is not going to just drop out of the sky and you've got it. Like you actually have to have enough product in the first place to sell to get that goal. So you have to work back to figure out how much stock you need so that you can get your end goal, and that you have your cash flow work so that you can actually pay for those deposits to get the stock. So I think that's something that I had not learned anywhere else, not at uni or anything. And so there is so much more to business that, you really have to make sure that you invest time into learning to understanding how to do that, because if you don't know your numbers, your business will forever struggle.
Yeah. Gemma, the pretentious nature. So I'd imagine there's going to be a lot of surfers wanting to, the industry look at what you're doing. The pretentious nature around quality, like if every season change, there'll be a question on the New Zealand Surfers Facebook site, what's the best wetsuit brand? And someone will talk about flexibility, someone will talk about how long it lasts. how are you getting your quality competing with all those things? Is it your sort, with flexibility, durability, all of that stuff to compete with O'Neill, Rip Curl, etc.?
Absolutely. That's definitely been a journey from like at the very beginning. The biggest thing I struggled with when we started nice and small in Australia, so now we are now ethically made in China, was back then they had a lot of limitations. And so one of the things that they really could only produce for me at that time, may have changed now, is like a flat lot stitched wetsuit. So that was fine for spring suits and jackets and stuff, but for winter, for wetsuits, you want glue blind stitch seams. And so that's very time intensive, and they couldn't do that. And so for me to, be able to play with those other companies and really create that high performance wetsuit, I had to go over further afield so that somewhere that could produce those type of wetsuits. And so that has definitely, the people in China and their technology and their knowledge of things is so advanced and always ever evolving that it really gives me access to those best materials and features, which is amazing. But you have to be able to be in there to play the game with everyone else.
Oh, yeah, no, cool. You said earlier, just me. Do you have a future plan when it isn't just you, where you get big? Are you nervous about getting big? Because I imagine it's a real fine line. There's a day where your garage isn't big enough, or you don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts moving forward? Or are you just going, well, I'm just going to sit where I am? Yeah.
I think that I always quite like the idea of sort of kind of being that family-owned size run business. I don't want to be this massive corporation where I have lost all control over my business. I always want to be in a position where I have control over it, because it's my baby and it's it's called Gemma Lee, and I adore and love my community. I always want to be, right there to be able to do whatever the business needs versus having to go through 50 other people to make a decision. But I also really love the aspect of being, I would love to eventually get all my stock, which I think will probably happen within the next year, into a third-party logistics, so that my business can kind of be very, at the moment I go away and it's like I have to get my sister to pack all my orders while I'm away, but to be able to be very mobile and even more free within my business, that I can pick up and work from anywhere. And when I get to the point of having a couple of employees, they also can be anywhere to do it. So I really love the aspect of, being very mobile, very free.
Yeah. No, cool. It's a fascinating story. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've done so well. So before Grace does her wrap up and things, advice to young kids, obviously, just that business thing I think you've touched on, that it's maybe not, I mean, you can do stuff like that at school, you can do bits and pieces, but it's not being afraid of it when you do leave school, by the sounds of it, that if you've got a business in mind, you've got to learn, you've got to study, you've got to continue to educate yourself. Would that be your big advice to them?
I think absolutely. I think there's so many little courses outside beyond university that you can pick up and sharpen up on the skills that you don't have yet, that I think always keep learning. That's the biggest thing. Once you leave like high school, university, keep learning, finding those little courses, weekend long courses to keep sharpening up and gaining the skills that you don't have yet. Yeah, keep learning.
Yeah, that's wicked. So look, just to wrap up from me, I just, thank you so much for joining us. It's been fascinating following you and seeing your business from, I suppose, the consumer side. I mean, maybe there'll be a mail line sometime. Gemma Lee might not work, but and I won't. Yeah, look, it's and we won't be booted out of the water for having a bit of colour on, which would be nice. But Yeah, and obviously, I think you were very lucky early on with you suggested your family were in business, and I'm presuming if you get on the phone to the brother and go, "What's this tax relief?" or so, I suppose it's and you business mentors you've mentioned. I know there are many communities around New Zealand where you can get on the phone, local counsellor, someone who could point you in the right direction to go, "Look, I just need to talk to someone." So I suppose not being fearful of that, but your boldness to go forward. And if people, and we will once I shut up, can I just get you to put your own shout out to your business? Because people need to get online, your Insta, your Facebook, your website, and now see what we're talking about in terms of your product, because it is bloody cool. So congratulations on everything you've done, but please put a shout out. Look, where can they find you?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we're online. So GemmaLeeWetsuits.com, and same with socials, Gemma Lee Wetsuits. So if you need a wetsuit, you know where to come to.
And Gemma, before we ask, there's always a sign-off question, but maybe a bit of a selfish question is, I'm finding this very inspiring, so thank you. And a part of that is like, you're very confident in what you're doing, and these are your designs, and it's your brain, and they're good. We know that they're good, but that's a subjective thing because this is a form of art, right? So, and maybe in going back to that high school mind you might have been in, when you aren't sure, you're like, well, I think it's good. And before you started winning these awards, how, I guess, have you or do you deal with maybe the opinion of people going, it's not my cup of tea? Like, what, like, how much does that factor into you and what you do?
Yeah, I think it's interesting you bring that up, because I'm like, that is definitely something I've dealt with a lot over the years. Back in the early days when, I would get a negative comment, that would definitely hit hard and hurt. But I guess, I don't know, with time and with business, and also I think just growing up, you get thicker skin. So at this point, when I see those comments, they actually do not affect me at all anymore. It's just, I see these comments and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just like, not everyone's cup of tea. Like, I can't be everyone's cup of tea, and I'm not. And I know there's plenty of people out there that hate the heck out of what I design. But also equally, there is as many people that love and adore what I do. But I think the sooner you accept that, yeah, you will not be everyone's cup of tea, and that is okay, the more peace you'll get a lot quicker.
Thank you.
It's exactly what a market is, isn't it, Gemma? It's a market. And there's a market for this and a market for that. And we're serving a market, and it's really popular. So, yeah.
I wanted to call that out because it's the same with like a favorite color. I love orange, but I'm iffy about like navy green. Like, it's just whatever, navy blue. It is just what it is. So I wanted to call that out because there might be people when they get started, you come across it. But awesome to say that, you do get thicker skin as you get older, which is nice. But if you're not there yet, just focus on the good stuff.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Last question is, if you could go back to Gemma to Gemma, it's not to everyone, it's just you, back to your year 12 or 13 self, what advice would you be giving like yourself directly?
Oh, that's a tricky question. I think it's chase after every opportunity and say yes to as many opportunities as possible, because you never know which doorway leads to what. If I hadn't, applied for that competition way back at the beginning, then all those other doors wouldn't have then come and opened. So I think just, chase after opportunities and say yes as much as you can.
Thank you. Like you said yes to this, your first podcast, and I'm very grateful it's on this one.
Thanks for having me. It was fun. I really enjoyed chatting to you guys.
It's been a pleasure. Really loved it.
Thank you so
And
much.
best of luck with everything you're doing too.
I really appreciate, you guys inspire me with how much you encourage me. Thank